Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 100th episode of Wholesale Change. My name is Ian Heller. This is my co-host, Jonathan Bein. Welcome to Brian Hopkins, who is relatively, we're 6 months with the company now, Brian. Is that right? Brian's figuring out his audio. Yeah. So Brian's been with us about 6 months. He's our chief operations officer, and we want to welcome you to the show that's all about thought leadership in the wholesale change industry. And it's the show for wholesale change agents, because if you're on this show, you're probably a wholesale change agent too. Jonathan, I switched up the opening for the 100th episode. What do you think?
I think it's pretty special. Yeah. And you've got your mug, your
I,
wholesale change mug. I've
yeah,
got I've got stereo wholesale change mugs.
oh, we can't see them. They're blurred because of your
Nice.
background thing. But, and Brian, we need to get you a wholesale change mug.
Yeah, I could use one of those for sure because I'm stuck here with my Chicago Bears cup that I probably shouldn't be drinking out of today.
Yeah, that's a painful Hail Mary
Next week, Brian.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hail Marys are fun when it's your team. It's painful when it's against your team. So,
Amen.
hey, we've got a stellar lineup of extra guests today. We've got Ron Paulson, long time with Grainger, like Brian and I, and a strategic advisor for ORS Group. And we've got Eric Wessinger from Richard Supply Company. He's the president and CEO there. And we've got Dirk Beveridge, who's the executive producer of We Supply America, but so much more than that, right? He's a legend in the industry, and we're delighted to have all these folks to give different perspectives on what's happened since we started this show. How's the industry been changing over the last 4 years? And that's only to inform the conversation on where the industry is going over the next several years. So we should have some very interesting perspectives, but let's do a little business before we get started. First, let's talk about Demand RX. This is a phenomenal, incredible, unique, one-of-a-kind tool for distributors where we use your data and third-party data to help you understand how much each customer and prospect should be buying by product category based on multiple factors like employee count, vertical that they're in, historical purchases to companies like that, geography, etc. You get a whole dashboard and panel where you can slice and dice and sort data. You can make it specific to a branch, a sales rep, product category. It's a phenomenal tool. Jonathan, you're really the inventor of it. What am I missing here, my friend?
I think you got it. If you're looking to grow wallet share or market share, this is the tool for you.
Yeah, it's really the ultimate sales coaching tool, and it provides this, much better data than we believe than you can get from any other source. Great. So Demand RX, reach out to Jonathan if you want more information on that. Then we've got a conference coming up. It's a week away. It's the Product and Productivity Summit for distributors. We are looking at everything from gross margin enhancement to cost to serve to productivity gains you can make with artificial intelligence. An absolutely stellar lineup of speakers. We'd love to see you there. Please sign up. We're going to send someone from your company if you want to improve your profits. This is one of those conferences where when you come back, you're almost guaranteed that if you take some actions based on what you learned, you're going to become more profitable than you were. This is an absolute maximum ROI event to invest in. So we'll hope to see you there. We got a bunch of people coming, and it's going to be a really, really fun, exciting place to be. And there's nothing like this in the industry anymore. There used to be, but there's nothing now. So don't miss it. Okay, Wholesale Changes brought to you by Epicor, a software company that has helped thousands of wholesale distributors over 50 years to integrate their business functions into one ERP system. Because of their deep expertise in distribution, they understand your world and your unique challenges. Epicor ERPs are designed to help you operate more efficiently today, speaking of productivity and profit, while preparing you for whatever comes next. Epicor will transform your ERP from a system of record to a system of insights and action with easy-to-use, practical, outcome-focused, and responsible AI. So it's built in. It's a great way to get started with AI for distributors. Epicor solutions provide distributors like you with a consolidated ERP that is ready to use out of the box and allows for long-term growth. If you're interested in new technology, they'd love to chat with you to understand what you're looking for. You can reach out at epicor.com/distribution. That's epicor.com/distribution. So Epicor, thanks for sponsoring the show like you sponsor so many of our things. And also thanks to White Cup. Are you spending hours compiling sales reports only to find the information is outdated by the time you're done? White Cup BI transforms raw data from your ERP into actionable insights so you can see how each ship to location is performing, spot sales trends faster, and recommend the right products at the right time. With hundreds of pre-built reports and dashboards designed for distributors, and that's key. This is designed for distributors. It's easy for your entire team to use. Turn your data into dollars with White Cup BI. Learn how by visiting whitecupsolutions.com. That's whitecupsolutions.com. So thanks to White Cup for sponsoring the show. We really appreciate it. And last but not least, this show's brought to you by Zoro. Zoro.com offers millions and millions of products online, an endless assortment of products tailored for B2B customers. Their focus is on providing a streamlined, consumer-like shopping experience, making it easy for businesses to get what they need when they need it. Its unique business model allows for a broad range of products by partnering with trusted suppliers and distributors. This enables Zoro to meet the diverse needs of businesses in a single convenient online experience. By leveraging suppliers' expertise, they offer competitive pricing, consistent fulfillment, and a robust product assortment to serve a wide range of business needs. Zoro's growth is also driven by its world-class search engine marketing, acquiring thousands of new customers daily. Wow. For its distributor partners, this means their products are seen by a larger audience, generating an additional revenue stream without requiring significant investment. Zoro is not only a valuable partner for small businesses, but also for distributors looking to grow their reach and impact. With millions of customers and a powerful online presence, Zoro continues to innovate and drive growth in B2B commerce. I suggest you reach out to them. If you need a connection, reach out to me and I will connect you. Okay, let's bring in our panelists. Look who we've got today. We've got Ron Paulson, Eric Wessinger, and Dirk Beveridge.
Hey,
guys, thanks so much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate it. We're just so humbled and delighted to have you here. Hey, Brian, since you're not usually on the show with us, why don't we start with you? Why don't you give us a little background on your career and what you're doing today with us?
Yeah. I stumbled into a Grainger branch on the south side of Chicago, and I hate to say this, like 35 years ago, because now I sound super old. But I spent about 19 years with Grainger and then moved on to HD Supply. And then over the last 10 years or so, my career working with small to medium-sized distributors in operations, customer experience roles. And now, fortunately, I've got a chance to work with two of the other icons of the industry, Ian and Jonathan, and I'm having a great time working with you guys.
Well, you're doing a phenomenal job. I mean, we knew you'd be good, but you're an absolute star. We're thrilled to have you. RP, you want to go next?
Sure. Well, first of all, man, I can't tell you how excited I am to be a part of this 100th show. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, doing anything with 100 means a big deal. And that you've got here, Ian and Jonathan and Hoppy, I couldn't be more proud to be a part of it. And let me just also start out by saying what you have all done to our industry has been a game changer. You talk about thought leaders and change agents and all the different things you've talked about over 100 episodes. Every one of them is true. You inform us, you educate us, you create networks for us, you build relationships. You have given our industry something to be proud of when before, not that we weren't, but the fact is you've made it visible when nobody else did. So I can't tell you how excited I am, how humbled I am to be a part of this. And I've been in many, many shows. And I told these guys earlier that if there was a way to be able to get, continuing education hours in our industry, I think every one of us who have been a part of these shows would have a PhD like Jonathan, because there's so much you can learn. And if you want to go back and look at old tapes, there's everything on pricing, technology, AI, everything is there for you guys. And now obviously with Dirk and what he's done is transform it in a different way. But I just want to start off by saying incredible. I am so proud to be on this journey with you guys and being here today. So a little bit about myself, Ron Paulson, kind of like Hoppy, I was at Grainger for 32 years. In the beautiful summer hot day of 1988, welcome to branch 146. And I go back there and I'm like, hey, what are you talking about? I've got a college degree now. I worked all summer and paid my own college, all this stuff. And they say, well, welcome to Grainger. This is awesome. You're in the warehouse. I'm like, you're in the warehouse.
Right.
So, no, but I got this degree. I should be in the front office, right? Where's my corn? I've already been out in 100-degree temperatures, right? So I go in the back and I'm unloading this 53-foot semi. It's hot. And I'm like, what did I do? But I tell you guys, my wife's grandmother, rest her soul, said, you know what? She gave me this piece of paper about Grainger, and I know it's going to be something we'll talk about. Said, if you work hard, this is the kind of company that's going to take you places. And you guys, 32 years later, I started in the branch, got on the management development program, got my own branch, and met Ian at good old 149. Obviously, that turned into, I became president of what we call the Find MROs, our sourcing group, which kind of morphed into Zoro, which then that made me, I got into business development. And then I was the vice president for the regional Midwest region, where I got the humble opportunity to work with Hoppy. We turned that thing around from worst to first. They sucked me back into corporate. And they said, hey, you've done enough out there. Let's come back in here. Then I started up our services and business development. So I was part of the M&A and the services, and which is over hundreds of them inside of Grainger today. And then my last part of my career, I'll be honest, was the most humbling when I actually worked with the Grainger Foundation. So I got to spend a lot of time with Mr. Grainger himself, and I got to know the business even more, how it all started. And I will tell you, I was able to do what I think is incredible ending, where we took much of the funding that the branches used to help those in need. And I know Dirk talks a lot about the people and the livelihoods and the mind share and leadership, but being able to work with Mr. Grainger to support so many 501c3s that are in need set me off in an incredible end of my career. So 32 years, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I had over 20 different roles in my 32 years at Grainger, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit later. But again, Ian and Jonathan and Hoppy, thank you for doing what you're doing in our market. 100th show. I can't be more proud of everything you've done. So thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us, RP. I tell people that in my whole career, the one person who's more like Ted Lasso than any others, if you watch that show, is Ron Paulson, is RP. So, and I love Ted Lasso, so it's clearly a compliment. It's a compliment. It's a compliment to Ted Lasso. That's how good a compliment. So hey, next on my screen is Dirk. So you're up next, Dirk. Why don't you tell us? And you must be under a rock if you haven't heard of Dirk and followed his work. I mean, I think you've been the ambassador for the industry and the person who has raised the profile of it and made people thrilled and proud to work for distributors, more so than anyone by far, Dirk. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the journey you've been on, where you've come from and where you're going?
Yeah, so Ian, super cool. Thank you for those kind words. And Ron, I'm going to piggyback on you, okay, with what you just said. And Ian and Jonathan, congratulations on 100 episodes. And as Ron said, the impact you had. I'm reading a book right now, which is just mind-blowing for me, changing my mindset about the future. And the book is called Outlive. And it's all about, right?
Yeah.
So, and what they talk about in that book is the difference between longevity and health span, right? And so 100 episodes, longevity is amazing. But Ron, to your point, the wisdom that Ian and Jonathan, you're bringing, it's really about the health span of these businesses, right? Not just helping the businesses sustain themselves, but to be healthy going into the future, and taking all this wisdom for you. You guys are absolutely moving the needle in a big, big way. And I'm honored to know you all, and honored to be on this 100th episode with you all. And congratulations.
Oh, thank you, Dirk. We really appreciate it. It means a lot. And so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. And Eric, you've listened to a lot of episodes, and the penalty for that is you have to be on one.
So well, you guys picked a big one, so I had to take off the nerves a little bit. But it's I'm super excited to be here and really honored to get the invite. So thank you.
Oh, you bet. So tell us about your background, where you've come from, what you're doing these days. Your company. Just what does Richard Supply do? We'll get into a lot of the cultural stuff later and sort of the leadership tips, but give us an overview of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, happy to do it. Thank you. So so I think I'll bring a little bit different perspective to this. So Richard Supply, we're a inventory solutions and supply company. We're based out of Waco, Texas. We have 2 other locations in Fort Worth and Temple. So we service the manufacturing and commercial construction industries throughout Central and North Texas. We've been family owned and operated since 1937. So we've seen quite a bit of change over our lifespan as a company. My family took over and purchased the company in the mid-'80s. So I grew up a little bit in the business, working in the warehouse and cleaning and picking up like many people that grew up in this industry. So but then I went to school at University of Arizona and left Texas and kind of started a career of my own working in the professional headhunting and recruiting business industry. So I worked in recruiting IT professionals during Y2K and did that for about 10 years before my dad made an acquisition to expand our company into the DFW market and asked me to come home and help with that transition. So that was my introduction professionally to Richards and the industrial supply industry as a whole. So I was branch manager for that Fort Worth operation for a number of years, and then progressively got more involved with Richards from a corporate standpoint, learning the business as I went in all different capacities from sales to operations, and then was company president for a handful of years and moved into the CEO role right at the end of 2019. So just as the pandemic was really heating up and getting going was my, kind of introduction to executive leadership within our industry. So it was a really unique experience for me, but I was able to really leverage my relationships through affiliated distributors and ISA and STAFTA and learn from some of the best people within our industry. And so it's been a really exciting journey, and I've really enjoyed the experience. We've got a great team at Richards, and we've got a really great kind of outlook for where we want to go and where we want to be. So as a young executive and learning and cutting my teeth, I wanted to say thank you to you guys publicly, just for your programming and your insight, and what you guys do is really beneficial, and it really makes a difference. And so, like I said, I'm excited to be on the program at all, but very honored to be part of this special episode.
Eric, thank you so much. We're the ones who are honored.
And Eric, you are a wholesale change agent. We're going to get into that later on. So
let's do it now.
I'll own it. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah. I think that's right. So, Jonathan, let's start. That's the next topic. So I use this term in my opening every week. It's a show for wholesale change agents. How do you define a wholesale change agent, and how many do you think there are as a percentage?
I think a wholesale change agent is somebody who's looking at the business from a data-driven or analytic standpoint and is willing to actually make change in their business. And so I think the people who say, well, that's the way we always did it, that is not a wholesale change agent. The wholesale change agent is willing to make shifts in the business to reflect what's happening in the end market, what's happening with the expectations of end customers, to create efficiencies, to create effectiveness. And I think it is kind of like the Marines, the few, the proud. I think it's probably less than 1%, maybe it's less than 0.5% of the companies that are really looking to make changes to come into this decade with a different approach than they might have come in the last decade. So, Eric, your timing and when you became the man in that seat is perfect. Yeah. You were forced to become a wholesale change agent. So.
Yes, absolutely. There was there was no more. This is how we've always done it. During those times, everything was different. So it was a nice catalyst, I think, for me and for our business, that timing was around that transition. So it worked out well.
How do you keep that innovation alive, Eric, when there's no, black swan event going on?
Well, for us, it starts with just, encouraging creativity within my team and everyone at Richards. It's, we like change. We try to always kind of start out every conversation with, how could we do this differently? Or is there a better way to do this? So we love solving problems. It's a necessary, everyone on our leadership team has to enjoy solving problems. That is a necessary skill set for the way we run the business. So I think it's just being able to foster that and to encourage it. And when people bring different ideas and different perspectives, we try to leverage it and look at it from every different angle that we can to see how ultimately, at the end of the day, does this make us easier to do business with for our customers, and does this bring value to our customers? And if the answer to that is yes, then we try it and see if it works. And most of the time it does, but sometimes it doesn't. But we learn from those experiences too.
Eric, I think your point about value is really a key aspect of a wholesale change agent. It's about creating value for your customers, right?
Well, we have to play in the market that we play in, and to play, with the different competitors. I mean, we're a 50 employee operation, and we compete with large multinational groups and competitors every day. So if we're not bringing exceptional value to our customers, then they have no reason to do business with us. So
when you think about that value, how would you describe it? Because it has a very different thing in the integrated world that you're in, right?
Yeah. So our vision, and this kind of speaks to the culture piece of it too, but our vision is that when our customers are sitting, having a production meeting or having a troubleshooting session or trying to think strategically about their future, that someone in that room says, hey, call the guys at Richards and see if they can come in and help us with this, right? So we want to be part of our customers' change and of evolution as well. So it can't just be about toilet paper and respirators and disposable gloves. Like, we have to actually be bringing solutions that are going to help our customers reduce downtime, increase throughput, really, effective programs that they can see in their bottom line numbers. And so that's our goal, is to, and for our customers to have that level of trust in us, we have to be at the top of our game through every department within the company. It's, from accounting to warehouse, to sales, to inventory, to executive leadership. We have to be on it and performing at the best we can to be able to build that level of trust with our customers.
Hey, Dirk. So you listen to what Eric, I see you listening intently to Eric as he's speaking. As you visit, how many companies, first of all, have you visited now in your 3 seasons of We Supply America?
Over 90 different distributors, probably about 8 manufacturers.
Wow.
And I believe 2 manufacturer rep agencies.
Yeah. So if you, like I said, if you've been under a rock, Dirk bought with no idea how you're going to monetize this massive SUV, had it painted We Supply America, and began driving around the country visiting distributors because there was something inside of him that told him that needed to happen. And it's turned into this just spectacular content about, I think what makes distributors special. So as you listen to Eric and think about these, almost 100 companies that you visited, almost all of or the vast majority of which are distributors, how does what he's saying resonate with you, and how would you define what a change agent is in our industry?
Yeah. Thanks. So Eric, your story, your vision is inspiring as all get out.
Thank you.
First of all, yeah, it really is. Yeah. So let me tack on to the question about value first, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we've seen with We Supply America. Jonathan, the way I would describe that value that change agents create is, from the customer perspective, I believe the best, most innovative distributors are in the business of improving their customers' net income. And they can only do that in 3 ways. They can bring solutions to help reduce costs, increase sales, or improve productivity. And the innovation, I define innovation as leading customers to a better future for which they're willing and capable of rewarding you. And that's where we need the problem-solving skills that Eric talks about, right? To go in and truly have that the lens of the customer always in front of us to find out, where are those opportunities to help drive that net income, typically through what I call that profitability triangle. And I think this solution-oriented mindset, it continues to grow. We, like many of us on this call, have been talking about it for decades. quite frankly. But those that are going to remain relevant, profitable, and sustainable, they have no option, right? Because we are in a business that trends to be commoditized if we don't proactively create that type of vision that Eric had. So that's, Jonathan, how I would answer the value question. We supply America.
I love that dollar signs are involved in what you just, because I think that's the key thing, is that you're actually having a financial effect, whether it's revenue, profit, or cost reduction on the end customer, right?
Yeah, and the best and most innovative have some form of a customer business review, right? That if it's done quarterly or annually, we sit down and we say, where is the value that we delivered? And we're going to use your numbers, not my numbers. Each time we talk, each time you call into our customer service, what value do you place on that? Each time that we are on time, what value do you place on that? And we use the customer's numbers to define, right, the overall value that we're delivering. Those customer business are beautiful.
Yeah. No, Jonathan, I was just going to add, because Dirk's spot on, but I would add a couple other points too, is, and you guys do a great job with customer RX. I mean, the number one thing to me is you have to listen to what your customers are telling you, because they're going to tell you where you need to go. And I'm sure Eric and Dirk hear that every day, but even in my experience at Grainger, right? I mean, a lot of different roles, and every time it always starts at the core with this customer at the center. What are you needing to do? Are you needing different products? Do you need different services? Are you listening to what I'm telling you that my DSO is out of whack, or are my returns high? Whatever it is. But you think about what the customer is telling you, and what is that feedback? And are you actually listening to what they're saying? Now, the other thing I'll tell you, Jonathan, which I know we've all got a lot of experience here, but my experience is when you're in a company like Grainger or large organizations, it's very difficult to be entrepreneurial, right? Entrepreneurial, you can see it and you can go out there, but when you're an entrepreneur, and I've been in almost every startup inside of Grainger that, especially in .com and forward a little bit, that is sometimes more difficult, because you have all these different metrics and you've got all these different requirements, and you need the different funding aspects of it. You have to get permission, that is a demanding role that's inside of it. But I'm telling you, the whole thing begins with the relationship, the feedback, the customer RX that you guys do through DSG. We did all kinds of customer surveys. I mean, I can't tell you how many behind the screen I would watch. Oh, this is bad, or this is good, or what's your feedback on that? And then you check and adjust, right? You check and adjust your business to what you need to do. And if you've got somebody, and this is probably, to me, one of the most important words that I will share. I used to be mentored by, the chairman and CEO at Grainger, and we have our monthly conversations. And I used to talk to him and so what do you think is the most important thing? And he said, you know what? You've got to have a healthy dose of curiosity. Are you curious? Are you thinking about what is, and even when you hire somebody, do they have curiosity in their makeup? Are they somebody who you would want to be around? Because that, and Eric said it, and so did Dirk, it's the people who are innovative and embracing this change. That's what wholesale change agent is. And so whether you're a smaller distributor or you're a big guy or a big company like Grainger, you've got to have the same kind of mindset, because if you don't, you're not going to be around very long.
So part of what I love in what you said is the wholesale change agent insists on getting the information necessary to make change. So whether it's customer experience data or other information. But the other thing that I heard maybe was that it's a little harder to be a wholesale change agent in a larger company.
Yep.
Yeah, is that?
In my experience, and I've had a lot of it, and it is, if you've got the right environment and culture, which Dirk talks a lot about in all the visits he's had, is if you've got a culture of, let's try this. It may not work, but it may work. Who knows? And then you surround yourself with great people, and I've been around great people my entire career. People smarter than me, like a Brian Hopkins, that would sit around the table saying, hey, RP, for us to change this around, we need either more inventory, the numbers aren't right, all those different things, and then you do it. But you've got to have somebody who Jonathan is willing to allow you the ability to do it. People talk about, oh, we've got an innovative culture, but what's the person that gets cut when you're having a tough quarter? Well, let's stop innovation. Let's slow the roll on that. I mean, even the stuff I'm doing with AI, you get this great model where you can say, I can save you millions, but then all of a sudden, well, you know, we got to wait. It's the fourth quarter, it's getting tight. But I say, I'm going to save you millions and you want to wait? What if Hobby brought that to me back in the, where do I sign? Now I feel like if you don't have that culture of curiosity, of change agent, then it's going to be a tougher role. But being inside an entrepreneur, you know, I think was very difficult. And I've been on both sides. I've been on the Grainger side, now I'm on the other side. I see the difference.
And if I can just add anecdotally there, gentlemen, you know, as I've crossed the country, talking to individuals, you know, asking them what sets this primarily, let's call mid-sized, independent, family-owned, employee-owned distribution businesses that I've been blessed to visit the last 4 years. You know, what sets this apart from the other businesses that you've worked with? And how many times have I heard them say, we're not a number here? Now, that can just easily roll off the tongue, but think about it in relation to what Ron just talked about, right? If in a larger organization, you're perceived to be a number, a cog in a wheel, right? You're expected to just do what you've been asked to do. You're expected to just follow the process, which needs to get done somewhere. But when you are viewed as an individual with curiosity, when you're viewed as an individual with creativity, when we see the dignity in you as an individual and that you truly want to do the best for the customer and for the company, that opens up, it unleashes, if you will, that innovative spirit that we're all talking about here. And yes, I do believe, anecdotally, from what I've heard so many people tell me, is it's a lot easier in these mid-sized, independent, family-owned, employee-owned distribution businesses.
Dirk, you're spot on. I tell you, when you have to go in front of the board of directors and ask for, you know, millions of dollars to launch something, that's a tough thing. Whereas, you know, it's smaller when you can say, hey, it's me, Dirk, and Ian, and Hoppy, and Jonathan, and Eric. Let's go.
Yeah,
You know?
I would be
Okay.
careful though, because we don't have to go ask for millions of dollars. We got to take it out of our own pockets. And
Yeah, good point.
And there's
That's a difference.
there's
Big
less,
difference.
those pockets are, the pockets are a
it's-
little smaller.
Yeah.
It is. So I'm not sure how much easier it is in a big company. I think, or harder it is. I think it's, you know, I think it's damn hard to do a startup or, you know, because there are capital constraints and resource constraints, and you have
100%.
Less opportunity. You know, everybody's got to be an A player. You know,
Yeah.
you don't. And but anyway, but speaking of change agents, Brian, you've been one your whole career. But why don't you like kind of walk us through the change agents that have been a part of Wholesale Change over the 100 episodes? You've got some statistics for us, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to say, first of all, that if you want to define change agents, it's you and Jonathan, right? You created this amazing network, and I know you hate being complimented, so I'll stop. But think I pulled some stats because I'm an operations and customer experience guy, so I have to look at the numbers, right? So there are over 10,800 people that have attended these shows over the 100 episodes. 2,874 have been attended multiple events, right? And Eric is our most frequent flyer, right? Because he attends a lot of them.
I'll wear it. Yes.
From 54 different countries.
He gets the upgrade to first class.
And maybe one of those cool 54 countries that are on.
54 countries. That's incredible.
54 countries and 1,432 different companies. So across that time span, you have impacted so many people, so many ways, and so many different companies. So that is the definition of change agent.
You know, I think actually, Dirk, your slogan is "We Supply America." Given the reach of our show, I think our slogan should be "We Annoy America."
Oh no.
We afflict America.
Yeah.
Well, but that also doesn't count the folks on the podcast, which is
right.
Is probably a significant multiple of 10,000. So, Ian, you were doing some looking at one point at different podcasts, and this ends up being one of the most successful in the country.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, there's part of it is there's a cajillion podcasts because there's no barriers to starting them up. But yeah, I mean, we're if you look at the total reach of the podcast, it's pretty impressive. But hey, I want to change the subject a little bit. So here's what I want to do. We had this really interesting experience, or this really interesting data point that came out a couple days ago, where let's see here. Okay, Bloomberg had this headline: a Midwestern supply firm beats Apple, Google on career growth. and I can't see it anymore. I've run out of free uses.
Oh.
But Grainger was named.
Hit
Hit that
Grainger,
hit that paywall.
I
He
did.
needs
I
that
did.
money, man. He needs the money. He needs the money.
Yeah, but if you look at this list, it's got Grainger as the best place to grow a career out of any company in America. Second was Costco, and then you've got Google and Apple and all these like Silicon
Meta.
Valley darlings but it's none of those technology companies. It's not these glamorous companies, that or even the big players like Home Depot or Amazon. It's Grainger, an industrial supply company. And what's interesting is we have three people on the call that live this, right? So I started my career as a truck unloader in a Grainger branch as a part-time job in college and left as the VP of marketing 15 years later. And so we got, three alumni, right? Jonathan's texting me. Did I use the wrong word, my friend? No? Okay. And then RP, you and I overlap there quite a bit. Brian, you and I overlap there some, but you guys started off, all of us started in the warehouse unloading trucks, right?
Literally.
And Dirk, I wonder if there's a self-selection process here, because I think, and Eric, I'd be interested in your views on this too. You have to be willing to take off your tie and your interview suit and put aside your degrees, whatever else you've got, and go into the warehouse in most distributors and unload trucks and put away stock and sweep the floors and clean up the cardboard. Do you think there's a self-selection process that is one of the reasons you have these great cultures in distributors? Because if you're not willing to do that some of the time, I know there are people who join the headquarters as an accountant or treasurer or whatever, but you wind up with this huge part of your workforce that's actually done the work. And is that one of the reasons the culture is so great, is because there's a lot of this experience in customer facing positions, whether it's working the counter, answering phones, picking stock or whatever, and it finds its way, it just imbues the culture with this relevance and humility, and it attracts people who are like that?
Dirk, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, you got me thinking, Ian. The businesses that I've been to, it's those in the front office are comfortable in the warehouse. They're comfortable, right? Being there on the second shift with the individuals. They're comfortable doing the work. So I would say yes, off the top of my head, right? I've got some other thoughts, but if Eric wants to comment.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for us, like the warehouse is the heartbeat of our business. So whether it's a branch warehouse or kind of our central warehouse in Waco, if you envision it like a body, the warehouse is the heart. And if the warehouse isn't working properly and at its most efficient, then the blood doesn't flow through the rest of the body the way it needs to for the body to operate. So we really take that, it's really important for us at Richards that everybody gets a taste of what it's like, back there. And a lot of times those are, the most unsung members of the team. So it's important for everybody to understand. And just as an immediate example, I have a new network administrator that's starting with us next week. He's going to be our computer, our IT guy, and he's going to spend a week or two in the warehouse,
right,
to start. So just because I think it's just such a great introduction into the flow of our industry.
And say I was lucky enough, to work under RP. And did the same thing, right? Started in a warehouse, worked my way to counter, and started running my own branches. But one of the things RP always did, right? He tied back that work in the warehouse to the impact on the customer.
Love it.
Yep.
And one of the stories I'll always remember, and I always took care, I remember through my entire career, is you're not just picking a motor, right? You're picking a motor that's going into a NIC unit in a hospital.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So now all of a sudden, it's not just a piece of product you're moving, it's making a huge difference. And the reason I say that is because now I have somebody that I can believe in. I have a leader that makes that connection because he's experienced the same things I have.
Yeah.
right? And that's what that culture bears, is when you have people who are willing to get dirty, do the work. Now they get into leadership roles, and now they understand the work that's happening at that level, so they can lead differently.
And Hoppy, just to build on that too, and I know, and I started my introduction, I started in a warehouse, is 150 degrees in that trailer, but I tell you what, after a couple weeks of that, understanding every product that I took off that trailer, put on a cart, put on the shelf with the symbol unit, I knew where it was. Then I began to understand it and really embrace it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got into the counter, I understood it. So when somebody, hey, I need a, 1/2 horsepower, 56 seat frame motor, I knew exactly where it was, bring it back. Now that's a great customer experience, right? And I'm telling you guys, and Hoppy's right. I mean, when you connect, it isn't just a motor, it isn't just a light bulb, it isn't just a respirator, it isn't just a pulley that moves things along. It's saving lives in many cases. It's making the world run, right? But one of the other things I used to talk about is it's either you have the will or the skill. And so, you learn a lot when you have someone in a warehouse. And then if you don't think that, if it's beneath you to do that, well, then how are you going to really go to the mat for the customer in other situations, right? And Hoppy did that in droves. But, the other thing was being able to never forget where you came from. And no matter what role I was in, I never forgot where I started. And that's, Dirk, where you talk about the culture. And that's why I created it, because I walked them out in their shoes. I knew what it was like in the warehouse. I knew what it meant to serve and stay late, and emergency calls and everything else we did to serve customers. So I think that was absolutely key.
So one of the things that's unusual is that in distribution is you don't have a ton of large companies. So when you think about companies that have big HR departments, you think of GE, you think General Motors, back in the day, IBM, they manage culture and HR as a science. This was true 40 years ago. They were able to spot the fast track performers. What did Grainger do in that realm? You all each described your humble beginnings, and as Eric said, the heartbeat of the business. But then you graduated to, to very significant leadership positions. How did Grainger do that? Was it happenstance, or was it something intentional of, hey, these three guys look like fast trackers, and we're gonna cultivate that growth?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from my perspective, it was always intentional, right? They have always had a very good employee development program way back from when I can remember. But one of the other things they did differently than some of the other companies I've seen is they put people in what they call differential investments, right? So they said, we got this project going on. And for me, it was a Six Sigma, quality project in 1994 that a guy named Jeff Tim said, hey, do you want to do this? I see, you look like you're a good performer. I want you to help me with this project. I had no idea what it was, but he was willing to invest in me. And now all of a sudden I got to visit 40 different branches. I got to understand what quality metrics were, how they implemented it in the facility. So there was projects like that along the way where you found somebody that was performing and you said, hey, let me try to invest in you a little further. So it was very intentional. And then it was kind of project experience based.
And Jonathan, for me, I'm sorry, Ian.
No, go ahead, RP.
Yeah. For me, it was same thing with Hoppy. I mean, it was, like I told you, my wife's grandmother was, Grainger, you work hard, good things will happen. And I got into that. And then there was a branch management development program. There's a leadership development program. There's a financial development program. It's very focused and intentional, to Hoppy's point, that there's something about it. And the other thing you do is you actually have, very, an open channel of feedback. And it's not just the 6-month review and all that kind of stuff. And Hoppy knows it. Whenever we did a branch visit together, we'd be in the car talking, and here's the good and bad. Let's talk about your team. Where are they going? Where do you need help? All those different things. And then, I'll be honest, and kudos to Ian again. I mean, you got to have great mentors. When I was a trainee and I got put under Ian, I mean, he embraced me. He shared all his knowledge. Matter of fact, even though I was still in the warehouse, there's a warehouse supervisor. I mean, he let me change the culture of the warehouse. We wore ties in the warehouse. Go get that, and wanted to change something different.
We did.
And then and said, we got to make it different, but Jonathan, to your point, I mean, there's no way I should have been running Grainger's product information and being in magazines and doing strategic decision making and all the different things. But someone believed in me enough to do it, and I did it, and I learned. And they gave me all the resources and the tools. What do you need to succeed, RP? Well, I need this, I need this, I need a great team. When they put me in front of the region, I said, what team do you need? Well, I need Hoppy. I need people that I know can help me make something special happen. And so very intentional and provide you the tools and the resources. And I tell you, 20 different roles in 32 years. And blessed by every person who took me under their wing and shared their knowledge with me, because that's a culture. And I think, Dirk, that's what you were talking about, and Eric, that's the culture that you can create as a leader. And that's the great leaders we had inside of Grainger.
Yeah,
And
all I'd
it's
add
much harder.
is all I'd
Go
add
ahead.
is that I think management preached accountability of leadership. And
Mhm.
when I was in the branch management training program, you know, probably 1986, our general counsel spoke on unions. We had no unionized employees at Grainger. And I'll never forget the title of the workshop, which was "Any Manager Who Gets a Union Deserves One."
Remember that.
And he taught unions are an outcome, are the natural outcome of bad leadership. Because if you're not fair to your people, if you don't promote the right people for the right reasons, and you treat people with dignity and respect, then they're going to get angry with you and resentful with you, and that's when they become prone to being unionized. Now, that's a much more complex issue than that, but that was actually the situation that Grainger faced. And so, you know, I think that culture of accountability for leadership was sort of crystallized in that workshop.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's going through my mind. Obviously, I haven't had the exposure that you all have at Grainger. A rhetorical question. First, I am absolutely, I mean, we all should be proud of that article that Bloomberg has written about Grainger, right?
Absolutely.
That we are part of this industry. Absolutely. A rhetorical question goes through my mind, however, that says, what percentage of Grainger individuals are part of that development opportunity? Because I think that's an important question relative to where business, society, and human needs are going. And if you don't mind, let me explain that, okay? What I've discovered is what I call the 100-20-80-100 formula. And real quick, what that says, it's tied to some research we've done where we found that 95% of leaders throughout distribution truly believe that we need to have the skills and capabilities and mindset, not just to help people improve their job on the job, their skills on the job, but to help them grow professionally and personally.
Yes.
And what you all just described here is Grainger's commitment to help you grow on the job and professionally, right? Your career. Hallelujah, it's great. My question is rhetorically, but to the industry as a whole, is what about the personal development? And what about those individuals who are not high-performing individuals, who are not on the leadership and management career track? So real quick, 100-20-80-100 formula. What I've discovered, what I believe deep down, is that we generally do a great job at training 100% of our employees on the hard skills needed to do the job. If a forklift operator needs to learn how to operate, that piece of equipment, we're going to invest the time, dollars, money, energy, effort to get that individual trained up. 100% we do well. Then we do a good job with 20% of our organization in terms of further career development. And I think that's what we just talked about here. And those high performers, those leaders, those emerging leaders, the women in industry, we invest in them to help them grow professionally in their career. And I find that's about 20% of our employees. But then what happens to the other 80%? Those other 80% fall into what I call the no development zone, right? That once that forklift operator, once that counter salesman, once that accounts receivable clerk has the skills to do the job, I hope they stay happy there, right? And they fall through that cracks. I believe that there's a responsibility and an opportunity for us all to raise the narrative, to raise the awareness that maybe 80% of your employees are falling through the cracks, and that we have the responsibility and the opportunity to help these individuals grow, not just professionally, but personally as well. So the last part of my formula is the 100% again, and I believe we have the responsibility and opportunity where every employee has the opportunity to go into what I call the force for good zone, where we have programs and opportunities to help them. Even if they don't want to grow into another level in the organization, there are opportunities to help them thrive as a human being personally. And I think we have the responsibility and opportunities to do that.
So
I challenge the belief. I
Go ahead, Dirk.
challenge the belief that living fully alive is reserved for the few.
Yeah.
Living
Agreed.
fully alive is not the right of just 20%. 100% of our employees, we have to put the focus on ensuring that they are thriving not only in these four walls. They give us 50% of their waking hours. 50% of their waking hours are with us.
Well,
and a lot of them are struggling.
And for a lot of people, they're working to live. I mean, they get their fulfillment from their church or their hobby or their families, and so they're not trying to climb the corporate ladder. That's a less important priority. It doesn't make them less capable or less intelligent or anything else. It's just not how they prioritize their lives. But they want to have a good job and be fulfilled. So Eric, turn it over to you. You're trying to attract these employees and give them a rich work experience, and you need them to stay, right? Especially as they gain time and experience. How do you think about creating fulfillment for, the 80% that aren't trying to move up the ladder aggressively?
Well, one of the things we've really settled on recently, and it's been kind of a new idea of thinking, and I think this kind of translates throughout our industry, especially with the mid to small size companies, is that historically, if someone did not want to move up the ladder, if they weren't interested in promotions or new roles, typically they've kind of been left aside, or they don't get, to Dirk's point, they don't get the level of attention that the people who are a little bit more ambitious want to get. And so what we've tried to land on is more of like, hey, it's, if you want to be a delivery driver for your career, that's great. We hope that you can be a delivery driver here for as long as you want to be. But what can we do to make you the best delivery driver in the industry? Or if an inside salesperson doesn't want to go into outside sales, or they don't want to move to the counter, they prefer to be on the phone, like, that's awesome. Like, how do we make you the best solution specialist that we can? And some of that is professional development. Some of that is soft skill development. And so this is, like I said, this is kind of new for us. We're excited about it. So we're trying to work on developing and implementing kind of like a Richards University setup, but, where, 40% of the curriculum is soft skills, to help with that personal development that Dirk's hitting on. So that's a big part of retention. Is that, hey, we want to have the right people in the right positions, and if they're happy in that position, then how do we leverage that and foster that? And then from an attraction standpoint, is really just kind of hitting on a lot of the themes that we've hit on already, but of just, that in a company of our size, everyone makes a difference. Every single person in the company has influence over the value that we bring to customers and the value that our coworkers and our supplier partners and everyone else in the family gets from that. And so we really highlight that, of that, hey, when you come here, you're not just you're not just a this, you can be something different. And we've created, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've created 3 or 4 new roles that didn't exist, just based on people's interest and skills and what they're good at and what they want to do. And I don't think you get that in a lot of bigger companies, or maybe it doesn't happen. For us, it's as quickly as, cool, you start tomorrow. And some other bigger organizations, there's probably a little bit longer runway on that. So that's a big piece of it, is just that, hey, if you're looking for a place where you can come make a difference, and our average tenure of employees is over 20 years. And we've got people that have been with us for 30, 40 plus years. So it says something, I think. And I think and it says something to potential new recruits or new, people that we're looking at to join the company, is, hey, like people come here and they stay, and they stay because they feel heard and they have opportunities for growth.
You know, and one thing for me real quick, and I love Dirk's comments and Eric's, and to me, it all boils down to leadership in such a different way. And leadership, you know, that's listening to your employees, listening to your team members. What are they trying to do? What do they want to achieve? Everything Eric talked about, because, and if you're not communicating the vision, the mission, I'll never forget this real quick story. I know we're gonna run out of time here, but when I was doing a lot of the .com stuff, we were so worried about, oh, you know, we were in Lincolnshire and you're not going to recruit anybody because you're in Lincolnshire, you're not in Chicago and all these different things. So the thought was, well, you know what, if you create the environment, to Dirk's point, where people have the ability to succeed, their voice is heard, they love their job, they want it, it doesn't matter. So leadership does count. And I think we got to always remember that, because a lot of that, if you got the right leaders, they're going to think about all the things Dirk's talking about. They're going to watch his podcast and We Supply America tour and do-gooders and all that stuff, because they're going to realize that, hey, my employees are going to make or break me, and then the reverse pyramid, we are servant leaders. And if you embrace that and you do something with it, good things can happen. And you listen to the employees and you show them the mission, the objectives and what you got to do and how to get there. Here's True North. We're going to do it together. You fire them up and off you go. So Obi, right? Obnoxious enthusiasm for the customer or something. I coined a word.
I still have that. I literally still have that.
Yeah, and I think, look, I mean, we talk about sort of the culture of the warehouse. I don't think you need to start everybody in the warehouse, or that people who don't start in the warehouse aren't as effective. I mean, I've seen fantastic CEOs, marketing leaders, who never spent, spend a lap of their career in the warehouse. But I think there's a culture of customer service. There's an urgency that you get from the counter and from the warehouse, and that often dies when it reaches the walls of the corporate office. And successful companies find ways to make sure that obsessive, obnoxious, would you call it obnoxious?
Obnoxious enthusiasm,
obnoxious enthusiasm for the customer.
Yeah, I think getting your culture to develop that obnoxious enthusiasm is just a real differentiator, So,
well, and it's a culture of hours, minutes, seconds, right? And that's because that's what you have, right? And you have that when you work in a warehouse, or you're answering phones or a counter, any of those things, and then you carry that through in any kind of role that you take from there.
Ian, one thing real quick is, and I think this is important because I try to remind myself all the time, is that everything we're talking about is easier said than done. It's hard work.
It is.
And not everyone in the company is all super excited and Obi about you trying to help them become a better person,
Right.
So I think it's, but stick with it, because it's important, but it's not easy.
Yeah,
100%.
no, I think all this stuff is hard. And I think, one thing that we've seen, whether it's from Dirk's tour or from our own experiences, or Eric, what you talk about, I mean, it is a grind sometimes. I mean, there's that saying that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's like, well, sometimes his work is just work, and that's okay, and so it's not going to be glamorous every day. But you want the bulk of your days to be joyous in what you do, if you can do it.
100%.
So, okay, well, we had a bunch of other topics that we did not get to.
Surprise.
Surprising.
But I do want to tell people about our, let's see here, our next show. You guys can see that, okay, I take it.
Yep.
Maximizing sales through online marketplaces. We've got Niall Diamond, who's director of product from Evolution X. We got a couple of other people that we're chasing down who should be joining us as well. So if you're interested about marketplaces are morphing into all kinds of different things, construction management marketplaces, etc. So it's not just the Zoros and Amazon business types of marketplaces that we'll be discussing. So please join us November 6th. That is brought to you by ECI Evolution X. It's a technology leader panel. Wow. Panelists, thank you so much.
It's fun.
What an extraordinary
Thank you.
discussion, and thanks for celebrating our 100th episode with us. We couldn't have picked a better group to join us. So
Yeah, congratulations again, you guys. I know we started this with congratulations, and keep doing what you're doing, because you talk about wholesale change agent. You are the ones that are leading the way for all of us. So I keep watching. I'm proud to be here and proud to be with you group, and you guys are amazing. So keep it going, and see you in Chicago.
Awesome. Thanks everyone. And Dirk,
All right.
safe travels to Athens. I know you're heading over there on Friday. So
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Thank you all
everybody.
very much.
Congratulations, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye now.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dirk.